Mr. Happy Living here, and I'm happy to be broadcasting from WYTV7 in the beautiful Queen City, Charlotte, North Carolina, USA. Hey friends, will you join me for just a minute and imagine just how amazing you'd feel living the unique and distinct life you were put on this planet to live, doing work you love, with people you love and places you love, and all the while creating something of real value to others. That's what I call a life of significance. And I can tell you it makes for a very happy life. And so can my friend Brett Zuver. He comes highly recommended by Celia Slater from episode 71. And he's my guest star today for episode 174. And he's here to share his unique and distinct journey to his life of significance. But before I bring him on, I'd like to share a poem we created to thank him for being our guest star today. It's called A Life of Leadership, the Brett Zuver story, and it goes like this. From courts to classrooms, a leader takes the stage, Brett Zuver's journey, a coach turned sage, breaking streaks and lifting spirits high, a champion of youth with a vision to amplify. In halls of learning, he forged a brighter way, empowering voices, come what may, from hoops to hope, his lessons inspire a legacy of service, hearts set afire. We've recorded his story on the Something Significant show for you, where passion ignites and purpose comes into view. Hear Brett's wisdom, his life's guiding art, a story of impact that touches the heart. Hey, Brett, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Matt. I don't know what to say about that. That was not what I expected to hear to start with. So thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for writing that. Oh my gosh, that was a great. Wow. I feel like we're done. We can close. Any other questions?
Thank you, folks, for listening to our. So, why don't you get us started with the show by telling us what you're doing these days to make your mark of significance on the world?
Oh yeah, thank you. Absolutely. Yeah, it's pretty exciting. I'm working with two different organizations right now. I'm a high school and middle school principal right now at Creative Technologies Academy. It's a charter school in Michigan, just outside of Grand Rapids. In my first year doing that, and I'm also working for an organization called the Flippin' Group, and primarily doing work with a program called Capturing Kids' Hearts, where we travel all over. I think we're in 48 states and 4 or 5 different countries, working with educators to really work on relationship building and the strength of relationships, not only teacher to student or administrator to student, but also student to student, and just really finding all the positive values in that, and how they can really shape and transform an organization. So doing a little bit of that. Yeah. And in a previous life, you referenced in the poem, I was a collegiate basketball coach for 17 years. Northwestern Oklahoma State University, then at Colorado College in Colorado Springs, and then also at Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia, and made the move to public education. My children were growing up fast, and I was missing a few of those things, and yeah, have done it and have not looked back. It's been great.
Oh, that's great. Isn't coaching just an amazing thing?
It is an amazing thing, and it's one of those things where it never seemed like a job. I've been very fortunate. Just about any place I've been, it hasn't seemed like a job. It's a calling, I think, more than anything. Where just having an opportunity to shape young people's lives through sport. But boy, there's so much more to it than sport. There's so much work that can be done and results that can be seen about teamwork and working together, and learning about yourself and persevering through hard times, whether it's an injury or maybe it's because their coach has been on them a little bit and they're not playing as much as they thought, and how to really, we jokingly say, hey, tape your ankles tonight. We're getting ready to go, lace up your shoes a little tighter and figure out that you can do more than you actually thought you could do. So yeah, it's been a great thing.
Yeah, very good. All right, Brett, let's do a little mathematics so our friends all around the world can get to know you through our happy formula. It's a really simple formula, but it's very powerful. It goes like this. Power plus purpose equals happy. So let's start with power. What are your personal practices for building up all the power that you need to get things done, whether it's physically or mentally, financially, spiritually, emotionally? In other words, Brett, what do you do on a regular basis to create all the power that you need to take really good care of yourself and your loved ones and still have plenty left over so you can be a giver to others?
That is a great question, Matt. Thank you for asking. It's kind of a combination of things. I've always been reasonably active. Myself was a basketball guy since I was, I don't know, third or fourth grade, and was fortunate enough to play in college, and then coach for a long time, and still play. Still play a bit, but no, I really am active. Physical fitness wise, like to actually this morning, we had a snow day here in Michigan, so I was able to get to the gym a little earlier this morning. Today was a lift day. So combination, lifting, cardio, 6 to 7 days a week with that. So that's good. And have really in the last 5 or 6 years tried to eat better. I wasn't a huge vegetable guy. I will admit, guilty, guilty as charged. Wasn't a huge vegetable guy, but have really found that makes a difference. I'd found, yeah, probably 5 or 6 years ago, I was all of a sudden my pants were starting to get a little tight, and I felt just a little squishy, and that was something new for me. So I thought, okay, and I was working out all the time, and so connected. Our son lives in Colorado, and at the time was a personal trainer. Connected us with a nutritionist, and so really eating healthy makes such a huge difference. So that gives me energy too. And I think just being around great people, that really is a positive and motivating thing. It makes me feel like, I'm ready to roll, even if maybe it's a hard day at school or a hard day with whatever. Being able to be around positive, people that fill your cup make a big difference. So I'm very, very fortunate to have a lot of those people in my life.
Now, you mentioned something that I've learned is really, really important, and I want your viewpoint on it for our audience, that as we age, the source of our power shifts, and our bodies shift. And you said you started to feel your pants get a little bit tighter, and you made changes, or you gained 15 or 20 or 25 pounds. And before you got to that point of feeling overwhelmed, you paid attention to the shifts in your life and you made adjustments. So talk about that and the importance of that, because the alternative is it gets out of control.
Yeah, well, it's funny. One of my friends, his name is Heath Glick. He's this, I don't know, I got to get his title right. I think he's the chief of staff of athletics at Florida International University right now. He was a student assistant coach of mine when I was coaching at Emory. Great guy. He had a term that has always stuck in the back of my mind. He called it creeping obesity. So just one of those where, a pound or two, 3 pounds a year, maybe put on a couple this year, a couple that year, the next year, but all of a sudden after 5 or 6 years, those 3 pounds turned into 20 or 30. And so that always has stuck in my mind. And I just thought, okay, yeah, it was interesting. It was very interesting, because the thing that really put me over the edge, and I was still playing hoops all the time and doing everything that was the issue. I'd been doing everything like I'd always been doing, including eating a giant bowl of ice cream every night before bed. Or what I found guilty. What I found out was the worst. This was funny. The first time we met with our nutritionist, Amy, she's great. It was Zoom over during COVID. And because I was thinking I was trying to eat well, but I just didn't know how. So every night I'd been on a roll of eating a bowl of Raisin Bran and a big glass of orange juice. And she went like this with her hands. She went, "Oh my gosh." She goes, "That's like so full of sugar and so full." I just didn't know. I didn't know. So I'm glad you asked that, Matt, because not knowing isn't necessarily an excuse. I was able to seek knowledge and find knowledge, and figure out a way to change what was my situation that I was in, because that was making me nervous. And I don't know if it was ego or health or whatever.
Yeah.
But the day that I remember it put me over the edge was I literally got out of breath tying my shoes. Like I was leaning over, and I don't know if and I never really had a big like tummy or anything, but I was leaning over, and I tied my shoes and came up and went like breath. I didn't know. I thought, what is happening to me? So I made those changes, and I feel great. I feel great.
This idea of creeping obesity, it can apply to physical fitness, mental fitness,
Yes.
financial fitness. It's just, if you're not paying attention to it, then it starts to get away from you. And the further it gets away, the harder it is to fix. So that's what I was encouraged by what you said. And that's for our audience, is when you see it, take action, because it's easier when you take action, the faster you take it. So
Take early.
yeah,
Yes.
let's move into to my favorite power generating concept. And it relates to this conversation a little bit, but it's called a Kaizen state of mind. And it's this beautiful Japanese idea that small incremental improvements add up over time to yield great big results. And I love it because it's based on mindset, not your circumstance. Kaizening life is knowing there's always something that I can do better tomorrow than today. And it creates this optimistic, gentle, but really powerful and continuous uplifting of my life day after day after day. So Brett, how does Kaizening your life help increase your power to continuously become more so you can continuously give more?
No, that's another great question, and I love that term. I'm going to research that a little further when we get done today. So thank you. I just really feel like I've always had a handful of things that have made me feel good. I have been a closet guitar player for 30 plus years now, not so much closeted anymore. And I always joke and say, man, growing up, I wanted to be able to play guitar and sing in the worst way. And I've succeeded. It's in the worst way, but I can, but it's still, it still counts, but it's, yes, it's so fun. It's just a great hobby. And with that, it's a completely different part of my brain. It was funny. I started doing that my senior year in college, played our last basketball game. We lost a heartbreaker right at the buzzer to a very good team. And the next day, it had never occurred to me. All I'd done, my entire identity was as a basketball player. Growing up, high school, college, all that, it occurred to me, okay, I don't have to go to the gym today. I don't have to lift. I don't have to run. What now? What am I going to do now to kind of drive that, feed that desire to, like you said, incrementally get better? I need something to try and get better at, and it's funny how it all ties together, because the number of friends I've made through being a music nerd, and the number of friends I've made through hoops, the number of friends I've made through education, it's different worlds, but it's just all amazing people. So just really trying to find ways and see what my constraints are. I don't like the word weaknesses. Yeah, everybody has strengths and constraints and some things that maybe hold you back from being at your best. I like trying to address my constraints and see what I can do to get better.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Okay, let's explore purpose. That's the second element of our happy formula. And I've observed that major life transformations, sometimes those big discoveries of purpose, often come sadly through devastation, whether it's addiction, abuse, disease, death, disaster, something awful strips a life to its core, resulting in a big and often unexpected change. However, in my book, Turning Inspiration into Action, I share the transformational process that I've used to discover the purpose of my life using inspiration. So how about you, Brett? Was there a specific moment or event or crisis or inspiration that revealed to you the God-given purpose you were meant to live?
I like what you said about inspiration. I think that I was very fortunate growing up. My father was a high school teacher in the town where I grew up. My mom worked as well. My mother worked as well, in and out of school, some, and did different things. And so I was surrounded with very positive role models, teachers, coaches, that really seem to focus on doing the right thing and working hard, and that there's no shortcuts, and really making sure that you get out of things what you put into things, making sure I realize that, and other people realize that. So I was very fortunate in that way. And so with me, again, younger Brett, purpose, all I cared about was making 3-pointers and dunking and getting to the bat, that, just being the best basketball player I could be. But then a lot of the people I had met through hoops, through basketball, were coaches. And in the summertime when I was in college, my summer job, I traveled all over the country and worked basketball camps all over the country, and met as many coaches as I could and other players at other universities, and just really forged those relationships and thought, you know what, that's what I want to do. I want to be like these guys. These people are inspiring. Look what they do for their teams and their community and their organization. So that's what really led me down that path. And so was fortunate enough to get to do that when I was hired as the head men's basketball coach at Colorado College. I'm not the youngest anything anymore, but I was the youngest coach in the NCAA for at any division 1, 2, or 3 for quite some time. So that was great. And then
how old were you when you got the job?
I was, if memory serves me correctly, when I was hired, I was 23. And so there were players on our team that were literally within a year or two age of me. There were players on other teams that were older than me. Looking back, I would love to apologize to a lot of those guys, because, when you're that young, you think you've got the whole world figured out. It was just full of full of vinegar and salt and anything, just trying to get everybody to play hard and play together. And the great thing is I'm still friends with a lot of those guys that were on that initial team and teams throughout the years. So it's different to realize a lot of those guys are 50 plus years old now too. It just doesn't, it's like a time warp. But then as far as you said, like the inspiration, then coached for a while and then ended up realizing that kind of a long story, but my children were getting older and I was missing a lot of their stuff as a basketball coach. I was all over the country and missing a lot of their extracurricular events. So I ended up being an athletic director at a school in Michigan and thought, okay, when I was a coach, I got to really have a tremendous impact on 12 young men. As an athletic director at this high school, I got to have a reasonably strong impact on 300 young men and women. Then a little while later, they asked me to be principal. Then I got to have an impact on the whole school. Then I was a superintendent. So that's kind of that sphere of influence, I guess. But it's been great. It's really been great. I've been very, very fortunate, very blessed all along the way. So it's been great.
Now, you answered that question complete and fully, but I'm interested in diving in a little bit to the controversy that you just experienced.
Oh, yeah.
Is that okay?
Because yeah, absolutely.
Here's how I want you to address it. That in life, looks like you've had this great, very positive, very uplifting life, and then all of a sudden, bam, a big controversy comes in, and controversy can be fair, it can be unfair, it can be your fault, it could be not your fault, but you still are in the midst of it. And I find that when you're in the midst of it, I've often thought, how much can people take before you start losing your confidence and doubting yourself? And so if you don't mind, if you can share with our audience a little bit about the controversy, but what I'm more interested in is how much did it attack your own self-confidence and how did you keep going through it and end up on the other side of it with really positive outcomes that you started the show with?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. When I was the superintendent, I'd been there probably 3.5 years and things were going really, really well. We had a student had won an art contest and painted a mural inside of a school building, but inside of a health center. It was part of the building. It wasn't actually in the hallway or anything like that. That was like a cartoonish painting mural of several young children, just happy and smiling and waving and all that stuff. And then, but some of them had on like on their shirt or their sweater, and the cartoon one had a rainbow, one had a blue and white shirt, and I really don't remember the other ones. But we had some members of our school board who really did not agree with the fact, saying that that was really promoting LGBTQ plus, and there was no place for that in schools, and on and on. And it's just interesting, Matt, is I've been celebrated my entire life, and always in a positive way for standing up for every single student. It doesn't matter their age, race, sexual orientation, gender, you name it. I got your backs. I've got your back. And that's always been something that has been a huge positive. And all of a sudden, it wasn't a positive in the eyes of a handful of people. And so, and that ended up becoming a thing. It was national news. I would get calls from, because they wanted the mural taken down, and then ended up voting to close the health center completely, which took away health care from, over, I think it was 600 families in this small community that was the only health care they had. And so standing up for that. And it was hard because there was a lot of misrepresentation in the press by some of the folks. And I'm very, very fortunate to have a very strong familial group, as well as friends that are like family, that really understood what was going on and were very supportive. But you're right, it was challenging because I'd have friends of mine in Los Angeles call and say, why are you on my TV at dinner time? It was kind of a
hard did it get for you? And
it was hard.
You ended up losing your job. I mean, you can say you resigned or you were forced to resign or whatever, but that created a change in your career that you weren't planning.
Right.
And
right.
So how scared, how hard was that? How rough did it get? And how did you get through it?
Yeah, yeah, and ended up resigning, and it was, yeah, it was something where it was just one thing after another, one thing after another. Every week there was something, 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 and it was hard. It was hard. It was the first time in my life, Matt, first time in my life that what I had learned forever: treat people the right way, work hard, do your best, support everybody, didn't matter. That was not a thing. And so it was a little shot, and I'm a confident dude. I'm very confident, always have been. But that it was a little bit of a hit, I think. And I don't know if it was, there's an old Don Henley song called End of the Innocence. And it was, maybe
Mm.
Bruce Hornsby wrote it, but yeah, End of the Innocence. And it was like, okay, it was almost like the first real time. And so I've been fortunate. I wasn't slapped in the face with reality as a youth or anything like that. It took a while, but I was kind of slapped in the face with reality, like, okay, this is really, this is really happening like this. So yeah, it was a rocker. And honestly, I don't know, a lot of people wouldn't know this, my close friends would, but the same week I ended up resigning, my dad passed away 5 days later. So
Mm.
it was a long week, that last day or two of January, and he died on his 77th birthday on
Oh,
February
wow.
2nd, So yeah, so that was a long 5 days, just a huge shift of everything. And he'd been sick, and it's a long story, but he'd been ill, and so had been at the hospital the whole week with that. And yeah, so just it was kind of like a mix of personal and professional um, significant challenges and or changes that I wasn't necessarily looking forward to from either one. But you can't control the one, and the other one is like, okay, well, now I have to gather, and what's my next step? So yeah, so that was, yeah, it was challenging for sure, for sure.
And then just real quickly, here you are now back in school and working with the flipping group, you're in a different place than you would otherwise have been. And are you feeling good
Yes.
about it? You look like you're feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah, I feel great. I feel great. It's just yeah, and again, fortunately, I've got a lot of people who know what I'm about and know what I stand for, and a lot of people that were really willing to have me join and be a part of that to help provide positive influence for young people and for staff members. And then even a chance to be able to do that nationwide with the flipping group is just it's just a dream come true. So I'm really, really excited. And you're right, you never know what is going to happen. It's an interesting thing, but I'm one who's not afraid of change. Change has never bothered me. I think, honestly, I think if I'm doing the exact same thing for too long, I get a little antsy anyways. And it's just this time the change was something that was like, okay, well, this is happening. So let's embrace it. We'll get through it. We'll get through my father's passing. We'll get through the shift, the career adjustment, and move forward.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks for sharing that. You do find you find your own character when you're in those real tough struggles, and you also find who your true friends are.
Yeah.
We have a lot of friends that are just geographic friends and good weather friends, but when it gets really nasty, that's when you know who you can
Well,
count on.
and that's a great point, because in all honesty, again, I did, and I'm very fortunate. I've got a great group of true friends. But it's also interesting because there were a handful of people that I thought maybe would be like that. That when the sledding got rough, the sledding got tough,
Yeah.
kind of got quiet, stepped back and got quiet. And I don't know if it was because they were nervous about their position or nervous. I don't know. I don't know. And that's okay. That's for them to decide. And that is okay. That is okay. Everybody's got their own reasons for doing what they do. And I respect that.
Yeah, very good. All right, Brett, let's take a commercial break so our sponsor can spread a little love with our audience.
Okay.
Mr. Happy Living here. I love good things made for good people. That's why I love Happy Living's online e-course. It's an 8-week-long deep dive into you and the inspired life you want to live. The life you were put here on this earth to live. The one that you and only you can live. 8 weeks of lectures and ideas and topics and supporting materials and powerful self-improvement tools. All designed for you. All designed to help you create the tools and the power and the confidence you need to discover your purpose and to discover the life you were meant to live and to feel incredibly inspired and motivated to decide you will live your life to its fullest. It's all designed to help you create the unique and distinct philosophy of you and your inspired life. Go to happyliving.com, select our e-course, and save $100 with promo code WITV7. And for every enrollment, I'll donate another $100 to WITV7. For $300 and about 30 hours, I promise you'll never, ever be the same again. And we're back, and this is the Something Significant Show, and I'm your host, Matt Gersper. And my special guest star today is Brett Zuver. He's a transformational leader, educator, and coach dedicated to empowering young students and athletes. As a basketball coach and athletic director, Brett uses sports as a platform to instill values of discipline, teamwork, and perseverance. Through his journey of enduring adversity, he inspires others to reach their full potential on and off the court, encouraging them to embrace challenges and rise stronger daily. Oh, Brett, I love that. And I think you're going to love this article that I found called The Science Behind the Power of Giving. It says that the act of giving itself can be a gateway for discovering your reason for being on the planet. The science tells us that giving our time and talents and treasures is a powerful pathway to discovering purpose and overcoming difficulties and finding fulfillment and meaning in life. So I've updated our formula. Power plus purpose plus giving equals really happy. So how about you, Brett? Has giving your time, talents, and treasures been a pathway for discovering your purpose and for getting past difficulties that you have faced and for bringing real meaning into your life?
Absolutely. I love the addition of that to your equation. That's fantastic. Yeah, it's really something. And like I said earlier in the show, I've never really looked at any of this as like a job. It's just what you do. And it's again how I was raised and around the people I was surrounded with always were willing to give that extra time. You know, my high school basketball coach, Coach Nevins, rest in peace, passed away a couple years ago. Great. He's the first person, he believed in me before I did. There was never a time where I would call him growing up on a snowy Sunday in Michigan where I couldn't shoot hoops outside and say, hey, coach, any chance you could go, open the gym up for him? Every single time. So yeah, I think just being able to give, and it's not necessary, you don't have to give millions of dollars or thousands of or anything like that. I think just giving time to people, giving time to young people is so precious, and like real time where you're, not just walking by, hey, what's up, how's it going, where you can really sit and listen to somebody when somebody's got something to share with you, and you really, really listen to them and hear them. That makes all the difference. Just that connection is so magical. And it's hard to tell where that's going to go, but I cannot tell you the number of times, Matt, and I know lots of educators who've experienced, we call it the lollipop moment, and that's a whole nother story we may not have time for this time, but where students come up to me in a store or on the road or
Brett, I'd like you to hold that lollipop moment
yes,
because I think I want to tee it up right after.
Perfect.
So science tells us that giving to others helps bring real meaning to our lives.
Yes.
The joy that we feel from our fourth element of significance, doing work that creates value for others, confirms it. But there's something more to it than just the giving, Brett. I believe that the real magic of life comes when you're giving from living in your purpose. It creates a profound joy. Maybe that's where you'll get to the lollipop. Not just for those receiving, but for the giver too. When you give authentically and genuinely, sharing your time and talents and treasures from your true self, You create real value for others while deepening your own sense of fulfillment and meaning. Giving from living in your purpose not only lifts up the lives of others, but it also reinforces your own purpose, forming a beautiful, transformative cycle of joy and connection. So now, talk about the lollipop moment and how you feel when you've lifted somebody else up, and then you actually recognize that you did it because they said something.
Yes.
Or just being teacher or Coach Brett.
Right. Well, and what's interesting, Matt, and thank you for teeing it up like that, because there are so many times, and I've talked to so many educators and coaches across the country, that where students will approach them 10 years later, 15 years later, and say, "Oh my gosh, Mr. Zuver, thank you for this, this, and this. That one time you told me this, I've never forgotten that. I've never forgotten that you said that." And what's funny, Matt, is a lot of the times I don't remember saying that to them.
Right.
It's just the dialogue. It's just what you do. It's what you do. It's the connection you have with students. Or when a student says, "You made me feel like I mattered. You really made me feel like I mattered." That's hard to put a price on that. That's tough. It's almost impossible, because that can be life-changing for so many students. And I'm just very, very fortunate to have had the opportunity to interact with young people and educators and like-minded folks who really understand the value of that type of relationships and interaction.
Yeah, and so you said you don't remember saying it, and that's, to me, that's because you weren't doing anything outside of who you are.
Correct.
It was like an artist that can, do this beautiful painting in 3 minutes time. You say, "My God, how can you do that?" Do what? I'm just painting. I'm just being me. But you're spinning that out to the world, and then when somebody reports it back to you, it gives you, explain how that makes you feel, because you've actually impacted another person's life,
Right.
by your authentic authentic self.
Right. Yeah. And it's hard to quantify. There's really no feeling like that, because I remember how I felt with, like I'd mentioned, growing up with my dad and the coaches and the teachers and in the high school I went to, how they made me feel like I mattered and I was special and I could do this, and gave me confidence and helped. There's not a confidence wand or dust that you can sprinkle on somebody. It's just constant. It's a process. It is a process. And so being the recipient of somebody saying something that kind and that life-changing, was that life-changing for them, it's hard to explain. It's really
Lights you
and
up.
I'm usually pretty good with words, but that one, I don't know if I found a word strong enough for that one yet. So it's fulfilling. It really gives credence and like just a genuine validation of what I've been trying to do. And the wonderful thing is, it hasn't happened just once. It's happened multiple times over the years. So I've been very fortunate, very, very fortunate.
Yep, and that's it, folks. That word that Brett can't quite grab. That's what this show is all about. It's encouraging. The show is about encouraging you to find that magic that Brett's talking about in your lives. And it's available to all of us. That's what I believe. It comes from this great big happy circle. Giving your time, talents, and treasures is a powerful pathway for discovering your purpose. And giving from living in your purpose brings a profound joy to your life and to the lives of those around you too. So it seems that giving leads to purpose, and giving from purpose leads to joy. So if I'm going to capture, teacher Brett, if I'm going to capture the entire exponential power of our happy formula, I've got to tweak it just a little bit more. To power times purpose times giving equals happy to the third power, and that's really, truly, deeply happy. Does that sound about right to you?
That sounds about right. I'm not a math guy necessarily, but I think you nailed it. I think you nailed it. I'll take your word for it. It sounds great to me.
Very good, very good, wonderful. Okay, let's wrap things up with a lightning round. I love the power of words and the capacity for great quotes to change lives.
Okay.
So I'm going to read a few of my favorites and have you tell us what they mean to you, and just give us the first thing that comes to your mind, Brett, because we call this a lightning round.
Okay.
Here we go, from John Wooden. I imagine you know who he is.
I've heard of him. Yes.
John Wooden. Sports don't build character, they reveal it.
Absolutely. I think Anytime I've played a pickup basketball game, you can learn more about a person when you compete against them than you can working with them for 3 years. You can learn more about them in 10 minutes. Absolutely.
Yeah. This is one from my past. I'm not sure who the author is. It says, once you get where you want to be, you're not there anymore.
Once you get where you want to be, you're not there anymore. Yeah, that makes perfect sense, because I would think you would want to keep it striving to be better. You want to be at your best. Just because, I tell students this all the time, just because somebody has a title, whether it's class president or captain of the team or principal or whatever, doesn't mean that they're a great leader. I've seen some people who have titles. You don't have to have a title to be a leader. And so you need to keep improving and moving forward.
Right. This is from William Carey. He said, I'm not afraid of failure. I'm afraid of succeeding at things that don't matter.
Interesting. But that's perfect, because I was talking to a friend of mine, educationally wise, where some people choose to focus more on the which curriculum matters. Of course, you want to learn how to do all these things, but they focus on that at the expense of the human piece of being an educator. I've seen some people that do that, and I've got some friends who've worked for people like that. And so if you're successful with maybe increasing your test scores by this much, but your students' self-worth is down because they feel like they've just been driven and driven, I don't know that that's the right formula.
Yeah. This is from Leonardo da Vinci. He said, one can have no smaller or greater mastery than mastery of oneself.
Absolutely. And I think it's a lifelong work in progress. I am not the same person at my age now, and I won't reveal my age, but I am a speed limit. Sammy Hagar had a song about it. I can't drive, and then fill in the blank. But I'm different now than I was when I was 20. Thank goodness. I'm different now than I was when I was 30. Thank goodness. So yes, it's always a work in progress, and I love that journey.
Yeah. This is from C.S. Lewis. He says, you can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending.
And I think that's perfect, because there's nothing you can do about the past. You can learn from it. That's the one thing you can do with the past, is learn from it and try not to repeat those same mistakes again and grow from that.
Yeah. And this is the show anchor. It's from Goff. And he said, whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now.
Yeah, don't wait till tomorrow. Absolutely, absolutely. Tomorrow may be a day too late. So if you think something good about another person, say it. If you think you can get better at this, come up with a plan and start moving forward immediately.
If you think you want to be a guitar player, it's not too late. It's not too late to start, even if you're an age limit or a speed limit.
Exactly. It is never too late to start. You need 3 chords and a cloud of dust, and you'd be amazed what you can do. And I always say, if I can figure it out, anybody can figure it out.
Very good. Okay. Now, folks, it's your chance to be a giver too. If you can hear my voice and you were inspired by today's show with Brett Zuver, please share a little love with our fabulous broadcast team by giving what you can to WITV7. They're a 501c3 charity on a mission to educate, empower, and encourage. They do good works with your kindness. Brett, I love your unwavering commitment to shaping young minds and guiding them to reach their full potential. And I admire the way you lead with integrity, passion, and a deep sense of responsibility for the lives you impact. And I'm super happy that you've shared your purposeful, resilient, and empowering spirit on our show today. Will you please take a minute or two and share any parting remarks you'd like to leave with our audience?
Yeah, well, thank you, Matt. And thank you so much for the invitation to be on your show. You've done so many amazing things for people across the country for a lot of years. So this is truly an honor. I really, really appreciate that. Yeah, I guess just moving forward is we talk all the time with students and staff members about how important honest self-reflection is. And I joke a little bit about that. It's a lot harder to honestly self-reflect for some people professionally than it is personally. Kind of, but like me, my joke is, I love to dance. Like, I love to dance. I'm at a wedding reception. You better give me some space, because I'm going to bring the heat. I don't know what's going to be happening, but I'm going to bring it. I'm going to bring it. And so I know and can joke about that. But if somebody questions me about professionally about being a principal or a superintendent or a coach, sometimes my armor goes up a little bit, like, hey, What are you talking about? I work really hard at that. I've done a lot of, so it's okay. That is okay to continuously, it's a great thing to continuously, honestly self-reflect. It's not easy, but it is not an easy thing to do. But either if somebody thinks they're perfect in everything or terrible at everything, they've got a little work to do to kind of find that balance, because we've all got room to improve and we're all really good at a lot of things.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. And that also kind of takes us back to Kaizen. If your mission in life is to constantly, continuously improve, then when somebody gives you some tough advice, that maybe you can take it and just start tweaking on it a little bit. And I think that's
Yeah.
good. Thank you, Brett.
Feedback is the breakfast of champions. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, Brett. I also want to thank WITV7 for hosting and promoting our show so we can keep interviewing inspiring guest stars like Brett and reaching folks just like you, ready to create your own extraordinary lives. And most especially, thank you, viewers and listeners. Brett's not a big fan of social media, but you can find him and friend him on LinkedIn and good old-fashioned email. You'll find those connections in our show notes. From me to you, dear friends, I love you and I want you to be really, truly, deeply happy too. So go to happyliving.com right now and download our free mini but mighty ebook called Making Your Mark of Significance. And once you read it, and it only takes about 30 minutes, then give some thought about what we can do together, you and me, to improve the happy of your world, one person at a time. Till next time, I'm Matt Gersper. You are awesome. And this is the Something Significant Show. And we're out.